So, welcome everyone to the next call of this gift book club. Would you teach a fish to climb a tree? We are today reading chapter 8 from the book, which is picking up other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This chapter particularly focuses on the condition called OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. What if you are far more aware than you give yourself credit for? Gary Douglas. In the psychological community, obsessive compulsive disorder, that is OCD, is defined as an anxiety disorder in which the person has unwanted and repeated thoughts, feelings, ideas, sensations called obsessions or behaviors that make him or her feel driven to do certain things called compulsions. It is believed that the person carries out the behaviors to get rid of the obsessive thoughts, but the behavior only provides temporarily relief. Not performing the obsessive rituals can cause great anxiety. So they feel that they have to do certain things in a certain order, otherwise they would feel very anxious. And this is because they have so many thoughts, so many feelings, and they're going through so many emotions in their minds, that in order to control it, they have to compulsively do certain things so that they'll feel a little relief temporarily for some time. There seems to be some truth to these observations. But in our work with people who have OCD, we have discovered something interesting. The thoughts, feelings, and emotions these people have are not actually theirs. They are picking up the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, as well as the sex and no sex of everyone else within 8 to 8,000 miles around them. So the as we read in the previous chapters, and those of you who are already into access consciousness, we are like we talk a lot about that there are energy fields, or there are thoughts, and there are thoughts which are in the environment. They are already there. There are like fields over there, and we just pick up thoughts from there. So not every thought that we think in our minds necessarily comes from us, and it does not belong to us. It can be from someone, originating from someone else around us. They are thinking those thoughts, or they are having certain feelings and emotions. They are having certain pains in their bodies. And because that goes out energetically into the environment, and we have senses, we are sensory organisms. We sense that and we perceive those thoughts, pains, and feelings in our bodies, and we misidentify and misunderstand that these thoughts and feelings belong to us, which may not necessarily be true. With these kids, which we lovingly refer to as X-Men kids, their sensory capacities are so high that they can pick up thoughts of people who are in the periphery of around 8 miles to 8,000 miles. And then you can imagine the kind of bombardment of thoughts, feelings, and emotions that they are subjected to. You are probably pretty clear about what thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, but you may not be familiar with the idea of sex and no sex. When we say sex and no sex, we are not referring to copulation. We chose these words as they bring up the energy of receiving and not receiving better than anything else we have found. People use their points of view about sex and no sex as a way of limiting their receiving. Sex and no sex are exclusionary universes either or universes where you either make your presence known, that is, you are willing to have sex to the exclusion of everyone else, or you hide your presence, that is, no sex, so that you cannot be seen. In either case, given the focus on yourself, you don't allow yourself to receive from anyone or anything. Dane says, imagine picking up every thought, feeling, and emotion, sex and no sex, from everybody within an 8-mile radius. Would that give you lots of feelings, thoughts, and emotions? Yeah? Gary says, would that tend to overload your system? Yeah, and that's how it feels to people who have OCD. When the system is overloaded like that, doing an action repetitively, like putting something in place or washing your hands, offers some relief. It is the one time you are focused enough on one thing to be able to shut out the awareness of all the information that is coming at you. OCD is called a condition or a disability. However, we consider this kind of awareness an ability. So at any point of time, if you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or please raise your this digital hand on Zoom, and I'll take your question. Gary says, I worked with an 8-year-old girl whose parents were going to put her in special school. She was compulsive beyond belief. She would repeatedly wash her hands and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We worked together for 2 hours, and at the end of 2 hours, I told the mother that the girl was psychic and picked up information from 80 miles in all directions. So, psychic is someone who is extremely sensitive and mostly extremely sensitive to the energies in the environment and to the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of everyone around them. The mother said, yeah, right. About 3 weeks later, the mother called me and said, do you remember when you said that my daughter was psychic beyond belief and she could pick up the feelings, thoughts, and emotions from people all around her? I thought you were full of crap. This is the most common sentence I hear in my work. She said, I didn't believe you when you said she could pick up other people's thoughts. But yesterday, I was sitting in the car with her. I was thinking how much I loved her. And she turned to me and said, I love you too, mommy. She heard what I was thinking, just like it had been said. Have you ever had the experience of hearing something and responding to it, and then seeing people drop their mouth open and say, oh, you heard it and responded to it, but they didn't see it? They didn't say it, they thought it. Kids with OCD have these capacities, and so do you. Eventually, I had to work with this little girl again because she was besieged by thoughts of having sex with women. I said to her, close your eyes and tell me where that energy is coming from. She closed her eyes and pointed to a garage apartment that was next door. I asked her father, who lives there? He said, a friend of mine. I said, would you please go over there and ask him if he's watching porn? It turned out the guy was watching porn for a good portion of his day, and this little girl was picking up his thoughts about having sex with women and thinking there was something dirty about her. So this is how OCD people, they get the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of all the people around them, and they think that it is coming from them. They are creating, they are having those thoughts, and they feel bad about themselves. They are in like guilt, like self-hatred, and all those things, like emotions that arise out of those thoughts that come to them. They are bad. Basically, they feel that they are extremely bad. They are dirty. Because they are dirty, they have to wash their hands so many times. They have to like bathe so many times or like wash something because they feel they are extremely dirty people. But then, if they are given certain tools, it could ease out their condition, and they might can be more present with their own life. The tool is, what perception are you having? I'll repeat this. What perception are you having? The number one tool you must use with somebody who has OCD is, what perception are you having? You don't ask what emotion, thought, or feeling are you having, because that makes it theirs, and it isn't. It is something they perceive. If we like, many of us might like we talk in Hindi, so we it could be, आपको किस चीज का आभास हो रहा है या एहसास हो रहा है। आप ये नहीं पूछेंगे कि आपको आपका आपके साथ क्या हो रहा है, आपको कैसा महसूस हो रहा है। आप ये पूछे कि आपको क्या परसीव हो रहा है, आपको क्या मतलब आपको क्या आभास हो रहा है यहाँ पे। Dean, do you see the difference between perceiving something and feeling it? If you say, I feel sad, you have just made yourself sad, even if you weren't. So when you say, I feel it, so feeling is a function of your body. So when it is of the body, what happens is you feel cold, you feel hot. So then you make it yours. It is in your body. That heat and cold is in your body. Yeah, you're feeling it over there. But then if you are just perceiving it, it is not something in your body or in your being. It is something outside, and you are just getting present to it. You are sensing it, you are perceiving it. You don't make it yours. If you feel something, you own it, and you are then whatever you have decided you feel. I perceive sadness is a completely different thing. It says I am aware of sadness. It is not necessarily something you are being. So when you say I am sad or I feel sad, it is like you are it. And but when you say I perceive sadness, you are actually acknowledging that there is sadness in the environment, and you are aware of it, you are sensing it. Gary, I perceive so much in my body and everything that is going on in everybody else's body all at the same time. The only way I can function is if I ask questions about the awareness if I am getting. If I said I have this feeling, and this feeling, I would be dead meat. I wouldn't be able to walk and talk if I had all that stuff I perceive. Knowing that I can perceive it or have the awareness of it without making it mine creates an amazing difference. And there are other people like normal people, what they do, because they can, if they perceive too much of the energies around them, they would create barriers, they would put up walls around them, energetic walls, to protect them, so that not too much of that awareness comes to them. But then what happens is that when you put up walls to cut off that awareness, to cut off all those energies, actually it stops your receiving as well. You cannot have more money. You cannot have people come into your life. So your connections would be very limited and you will be able to create very small. People cannot find you actually energetical in the energetic universe. People with ADD, ADHD, and autism also have an exceptional ability to perceive others' feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And talks about another incident about another child whom she was working with. I was working with the mother of a 9-year-old boy who had been diagnosed with ADHD. He also has many undiagnosed autistic traits. The mom works from home periodically. One day, when she was working at home, her son was home as well because there was a teacher's in service training at his school. The boy was in his bedroom on the second floor of the house, and the mother was in her office on the first floor, where she was engaged in a live meeting on her computer. As the meeting progressed, she was becoming increasingly angry at some of her colleagues. She told me that she was not speaking or making any sounds. She was not even moving her chair or shuffling papers on her desk. Her son came downstairs, looked at her, and asked, "Mom, are you okay?" So he could perceive her mother's anger even on a different floor, even she without uttering a word. She acknowledged that she was angry about stuff at work, not at him. And he said, "Okay, mom, just checking. I didn't know if I had done something wrong." How awesome that he was able to perceive her anger, ask her a question, and not take ownership of it. He knew he hadn't caused her anger, and he did not feel her anger either by becoming angry himself. He simply perceived it. Because this 9-year-old boy, he was aware that he perceives other people's anger, he went and asked his mother. In the previous scenario, what he would have done, he would have just assumed that my mother is angry with me and I have done something wrong. And he would have gone into regret and guilt and sadness about himself. Like he would have felt that he's a bad boy. So that is the difference it makes when kids are aware that they are perceiving other people's emotions and they can go and ask questions. ADHD and disruptive behavior. Gary says, sometimes a child's ability to perceive others' thoughts, feelings, and emotions can result in what is referred to as disruptive behavior. I talked with a woman whose daughter was diagnosed with ADHD. When the girl was with her mother, she generally was doing all right. Occasionally, she would have an outburst. When she was with her father and stepmother, she was in a constant state of outburst, and they eventually sent her to boarding school and put her on medication because of it. The girl was returning to live with her mother, who wanted to know the best way to assist her daughter. Dane says people with ADHD have a propensity to pick up the angst and the worry of people around them, and they often have a parent or a spouse who is worrier. I said to the mother, she may be acting out because of the situation between her stepmother and father. She may be aware of some discomfort in their universe, but she may not know how to deal with it. Maybe she's trying to deflect from their problems. So these kids are very aware of what is going on with their parents. Many a times parents feel that because they are not discussing or talking about their differences and their conflicts in front of their children, they are actually keeping their children safe and unaffected by their problems. But then what happens, even if they discuss it, they talk about it, or even if they don't talk about it, they think about it, they are not happy, they are having issues with each other or some other circumstances in their life, these kids would just pick them up and they feel worried. Because the parents are worried, they feel worried. Because they are fighting, they feel they are responsible for their kid, for their parents fighting. So the way out is the parents work on themselves first, and the kid would then be all right. The mother said, okay. Uh, Gary asked, will you please claim, own, acknowledge, and recognize that the kid's biggest problem is that she is more aware than her father and stepmother are even willing to consider? You have got to remember that kids pick up your feelings, thoughts, and emotions. If you are upset, worried, or concerned about something, or if you think there is going to be a problem or that something is going to be difficult, guess what? Kids will pick that up and say, oh, this is going to be difficult. You have got to get clear that these kids are far more aware than you give them credit for. Parents often assume kids shut things out. On the contrary, they are receiving too much information and they don't know what to do with all of it. Be willing to let go of your stuff so your child doesn't not have a problem with what is going on in your universe. Yeah. So the kids are actually, if when the kids confine themselves, then they in their rooms, they don't talk too much, they don't have a, they are not moving out into social circles. Parents think that the kids are shutting themselves down, but actually they are receiving so much information and that they are not able to handle it, and therefore they avoid meeting too many people so that they would have less information to process. And says kids definitely pick up on their parents' thoughts, feelings, and emotions about them. In an attempt to connect with their parents or to have a loving relationship with their parents, they will do what they can to match those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I worked with a mom who was constantly at odds with her 8-year-old adopted daughter. She said her daughter did fairly well in school. It was only with her that there were problems and angry outbursts. She told me her daughter had been placed with her and her husband when the girl was 2 years old. She had been found by the police living in a car with a father, with her father who was a drug addict and who died soon thereafter. The mom said, at 2 years old, my daughter was feral. She was utterly wild. I thought, given the deprivation and neglect she had experienced, that she would have all kinds of problems, and I set out to fix them for her. I guess I saw her as a problem I needed to fix. So, how many of us see our kids as a problem which we have to fix? Whether they are X-Men kids or not, still we see them as a problem, and we have to do something to fix them. And is it kind when your child gets to perceive that thoughts that you have about them? Is it honor? Is it honoring to them? I asked her if she was a problem solver, and the mother said, yes, she was. Then I asked, what if there is nothing wrong with your daughter? What if by acting out all the time with you, she's helping you to do a good job and be a good mom by allowing you to fix all the problems she presents you with? So, if you like to be a problem solver, the child will give you all the problems so that you can solve them and feel good about yourself. So stop being a problem solver and they would stop having problems. What if so much of what she's doing is to show you how much she loves you? I wonder what would change if she was no longer your problem. Tears fell down the woman's face. Then she laughed and said, "That is the first thing that anyone has ever said that makes sense to me. When I saw her the following week, she told me that her daughter's outbursts had all but disappeared. She said that when she stopped thinking that her daughter was a problem that needed to be fixed, there was an energetic shift that occurred between the two of them. For the first time, they had cuddled and smuggled on the couch after the younger siblings had gone to bed, and it had been wonderful. She told me it is all so new. I never thought we would be able to spend that kind of time together ever. With that, we go to the second tool. Who does it belong to? Who does it belong to? Gary, what if you and your body were like a giant radio antenna that picked up thoughts, feelings, and emotions from people all around you? What if 99.9% of every thought, feeling, and emotion you perceived did not belong to you? Guess what? You, just like the kids we are talking about, are constantly picking up thoughts, feelings, and emotions that belong to other people. Here is a tool you can use when you perceive a feeling, thought, or emotion. You can use, you can also teach it to your kids. So the tool is ask the question. So whenever you perceive a thought, feeling, or emotion, ask this question. Who does this belong to? Do this right now. Get a thought, feeling, or emotion you have had in the past few days or what you are having right now. So I would invite you all to get present to one thought, feeling, or emotion that you have been having for the last few days or for the last few minutes or right now you can you get present with that thought, feeling, and emotion. And then you ask yourself this question. Who does this belong to? And you repeat that. When you ask that question, does that thought, feeling, or emotion get lighter or go away? So you ask multiple times, you keep repeating it and see the energy, whether the energy is getting lighter or heavier. So, who does this belong to? Who does this thought belong to? Who does this feeling belong to? Who does this emotion belong to? Who does this belong to? Truth, who does this belong to? Truth, who does this belong to? 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 And then see what has changed in your feeling about this thought, what that is condition, what has changed, how are you perceiving it? Is there a lightness? If there was a discomfort on in your body which has eased out, has your head become lighter if it was heavy? So what has shifted over there? So see, notice if that thought, feeling, or emotion gets lighter or go away, does it get heavier or does it stay the same? If it went away, it is not yours. It was an awareness of someone else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So, would anyone like to share their experience, what happened with them as you were using this tool?
Yeah, it's feeling very light.
Okay, so it shifted for you, Trapti.
Yeah.
Anyone? So what Priyanka's, Zahira, Dr. Mahesh, what
Yeah,
happened with you? Yeah, please
Need to
go
go
to
through it.
Manish.
Yeah, need to go through it and see.
I couldn't hear you properly.
Need to go through it and see how it's going to work.
No, you don't look into how it is going to work. You get present to, you take one thought, one feeling or something in that is on your mind right now,
Okay.
which you have been experiencing for say last few days.
It's comfortable and relaxing.
Yes. And then you ask this question, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Do it right now. Who does this belong to? 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 And sense the energy. Is it getting lighter to you for you? You keep repeating. It's okay, Priyanka, if you
Yes.
cannot talk, it's fine. So once you have done that, then we can if it got lighter, but it didn't completely go away, you can return it to sender. You don't even have to know who the sender was. Just say return to sender. If it got heavier or stayed the same, you have bought the thought, feeling, or emotion belongs to you. So, who does this belong to? Actually, it belongs to you. You have made it yours. You have already considered, you have concluded that this is mine. So, when you ask who does this belong to, it comes back that it is yours. So, you can, like, what you have to do is you have to first unbuy it. You have to say that everything that everywhere I bought this as mine, I now destroy and uncreate it all, or I'm willing to let it go. I acknowledge and recognize that this is not mine, and I'm willing to give it back. And then you say return it to the sender, and then it would give you a lighter feeling. Does that make sense? And says, a 10-year-old boy who was in the gifted and talented program at a local elementary school struggled with aggressive outbursts towards other kids in his school. He was so quick and so aware and was flooded by his perceptions of everyone else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which he took on as if they were his own. He had been suspended multiple times and truly believed that there was something wrong with him. After one suspension, his dad brought him to my office and we began to work together. In our sessions, he typically chose to play with Legos. And as he created, we talked. So, Lego, as you must be aware of, these are blocks, very well designed blocks, we put together, you join them, and you can make beautiful things out of that. One day, he said he wished he could stop himself from being aggressive. Yet, when I offered tools like, who does this belong to? He would roll his eyes and shrug his shoulders. Even so, over the time, the suspensions decreased in frequency and he was able to make some friends. That summer, he participated in a being seen and being heard workshop I facilitated. One day he got on stage and instead of singing like most of the other kids, he chose to talk to the audience. He introduced himself and told everyone that he had gone for several weeks without an outburst, and in fact had been complimented for being a leader by the staff at the camp he was attending, from which he had been kicked out the previous summer. He then turned to me and said, you know that who does this belong to question? It really works. It actually does. He then spoke directly to the audience and explained how it worked and how he had used it to his advantage. So that was one more tool. And now coming to the third tool. Who are you doing this for? Gary, many kids who have abilities like ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism pick up the feelings and thoughts of people who think badly of themselves. In truth, somewhere inside themselves, they know they are more able than other people. And they try to take on other people's feelings and thoughts so those people won't feel so bad about themselves. So they would try to take away people's sadness, depression, their worries, their concerns, their pains, their uh, like anger. Unfortunately, this doesn't work because you can't take anything away from other people unless they want you to. Dane says most people are not willing to let their bad feelings go. So, if you take away their bad feelings, they just make more. And then you try to take those away too. You feel heavier and they make more bad feelings. You take more, they make more. You take more, they make more. If you perceive that a child is acting out other people's emotions, you can ask, who are you doing this for? For example, if someone with ADHD says, I am feeling anxious or I am having anxiety, you can ask, who are you doing this for? They will probably realize they are being anxious for someone else. Gary, people who are considered disabled have so much more awareness about what is going on than we believe. Many kids are emotionally handicapped simply because they take in too much of the emotion around them. They don't discriminate about what belongs to them, and we don't teach them that stuff doesn't belong to them. Start out by asking your kids these questions and teaching them these tools, and they will begin to use them on their own when their systems get overloaded with information that belongs to other people. These tools take them out of thinking their perception is a feeling they are having. I love working with kids. They pick up the tools instantaneously and use them right away in all aspects of their life. We allow kids to come to any Access Consciousness class for free until they are 16 years old. We have a lot of kids who started coming to our classes when they were tiny little guys, and they do all kinds of great things. Even kids who are very young can learn to use these tools. A little girl in Queensland, Australia, was 2 years old when she came to her first Access Consciousness class. She now knows and uses tools of Access Consciousness. One day, her mother was having an emotional upset, and the little girl asked, Mummy, who does this belong to? And told her to return it to sender. Mom laughed and returned it to sender. So I was lucky to uh, attend my initial Access Consciousness classes with my son. And he used to be a great reminder for me. He would remind me all of those tools and clearings that just he was being that uh, angel in my life who would just make me more aware, make me like remind me whenever I was again going into that abyss of thoughts, negativity. So, any questions? Any questions before we move on to the next chapter, or do we want to stop over here? It's going to be just 8 p.m. Dr. Mahesh, you are on mute.
There is no particular questions as of now because since it's my first session, I'm listening and I'm trying to gather more information. So
Exactly.
maybe in the next sessions onwards, I'll be able to get into the same stream quite comfortable.
Yes, definitely. And I would highly recommend that you buy the book. It's available on Amazon, both as paperback and Kindle edition. So you get hold of the book, and as you read through the book, you'll get more awareness. And because we are already on call 3 or 4, the number I forget. So I'll share the link to the playlist on my YouTube channel where you will find the replay of the earlier calls. You can listen to them before we meet again next Wednesday, and then you will find more in yourself more in sync with what we are reading.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So are you on the group, Dr. Mahesh? That group that
Yes.
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 Okay. So I'll share the link to that playlist on YouTube, and I'll highly recommend that you listen to all those calls.
Okay.
Right from call number 1, do it to them in sequentially if that appeals to you, and if read the book, please. Okay.
Sure.
So thank you everyone for joining in. We'll meet again on next Wednesday. So have a wonderful week ahead, and bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Tasneem. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.